Israel and the United States have launched a series of coordinated attacks on Iran. Explosions have been heard in the capital, Tehran, and local media are reporting nationwide missile strikes. Witnesses say they've seen smoke rising near the offices of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, who has not been seen in public for days. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has launched a first wave of drones and missiles targeting Israel. In Israel, sirens have been ringing out across Jerusalem, where authorities have issued, quote, an extremely serious alert. These are pictures of Jerusalem that you're seeing now. Israel's defense minister has declared a state of emergency for the whole country. President Donald Trump delivered remarks to the country, which he posted on social media. Here's the almost 8-minute speech making the case for an American war against Iran.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal. Something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
A very serious, sober, intense speech from U.S. President Donald Trump. And joining us in the DW studio is our Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanes. First reactions to Trump's speech, comments?
Well, first of all, his audience is the American people. He needs to convince the American people this is basically probably a war, not just an operation that the Americans have launched with the Israelis just 2 hours ago. He needs them to understand why this is happening, because there's very big resistance and opposition to this operation in the U.S. And this is why he goes all the way back basically, detailing all the 47 years of the Iranian regime and all of that they've done, calling them wicked and evil, and talk about their tyranny. Also talking about the recent oppression they have been, that they have been very brutal oppression that they have been using against their own people to build the case of why this is important, why it needs to be done. Other people who might be listening, and he's trying to convince are his allies in the Gulf, which have been lobbying in the last weeks, trying to get the Americans to refrain from an attack, and if so, just to go for a limited one. It seems like from what we are hearing in the last couple of hours, this is going to be a very wide, very deep operation, not what the Gulf allies had wanted. And we are also hearing now in the last hour testimonies about and reports about attacks on the Gulf, on the American base in Bahrain. We know the Qataris have closed their airways. We know there's also a high alert in the whole region. So this is not what they wanted, and we need to see how further this will escalate. We are also hearing about the Houthis, Yemenite Shia militia that has been basically bombing the Red Sea for the last, for the first year and a half after October 7th attack and the war against Hamas. They had stopped that after the ceasefire was announced. They have given an official statement saying they will resume attacks on vessels that are going through the Bab el-Mandab, the Red Sea route, going to the Suez Canal. So this is, again, what we're seeing, which is what the Iranians were threatening the whole time. Any attack will be retaliated with we will retaliate with everything we have. So we are seeing in the last hour attacks on Israel, several missiles that have already been intercepted. All of Israel pretty much is in shelters, is called to remain in safe rooms. And at the same time, we're seeing the Iranian retaliation spreading beyond Israel into the region, into the Gulf.
So it seems as if Tehran is following up with their threats in terms of retaliation. Shani, I'm curious, what is you talk about the Trump needing to convince the American people. How do people in Israel, the citizens of Israel, feel about this? Of course, strong feelings and animosity towards Tehran, but are the people behind the government in terms of what appears to be happening, which is going all the way to regime change?
For now, it seems like it. And Netanyahu himself just spoke recently. We can hear what he said and see how he's trying to convince the Israelis of why this is necessary.
בחודשים האחרונים הרודנים באיראן זוממים לבנות מחדש את יכולות הגרעין והטילים שלהם ולהטמין אותם מתחת לאדמה, ושם לא נוכל לפגוע בהם. אם לא נעצור אותם עכשיו, הם יהיו חסינים.
And this is why the Iranian representatives to the negotiations are trying to buy time in a futile and deceitful talks with the Americans, our friends. And of course, the Iranian tyrants have made a dire mistakes since the Americans are not falling for their lies. And we will not sit idly by as a threat of destruction is looming above our heads. This is Netanyahu right now speaking to the Israeli people. Both Netanyahu and President Trump were talking about the need to brace for a longer attack, the need to take in consideration there might be casualties. Trump was mentioning American personnel. Netanyahu talking, of course, about the civilians and then civil front. The whole country need to. The Israelis, in the meantime, have become quite accustomed. Everybody know where to go, what to do. There's a whole routine of how to operate in these cases. But nonetheless, in the last round in June of 25, there were several dozen casualties in Israel as well. All of that also to remind us that we're not quite sure what exactly is happening in Iran and how many people have been attacked or hit or maybe dead, in what we've been seeing happening in Iran in the last hours.
Shani, very quickly, to what extent is it symbolic that Israel made the first move as part of this operation, followed by the Americans?
Well, I'm not sure. I think we need to see exactly about the tech. It's a joint effort, and I think that for itself is a very big win for Israel. Last time Israel started, and it had tried for 10, almost 12 days to convince the Americans to join. Eventually they did. Now we see a whole new plan where they're doing it together. It's a very big strategic gain for Netanyahu.
Shani Razanas, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And let us go to Jerusalem and Tanya Kramer of DW. Tanya, we understand there are alerts for incoming missiles in Israel. What is the latest you're hearing?
Yeah, we could just, we are hearing more sirens now. This is not exactly the area where we are, but people in Israel are supposed to stay. Now we are starting here as well. You might hear that in the background. We are close to our shelters, so I will just have a few minutes to talk to you because we have again incoming missiles from Iran, and this is obviously what we've been seeing here in the past hour or so. Shortly after 8 this morning, we had a preemptive warning on our phones. This is usually like then you have 15 minutes, people were alerted. Then shortly after, we understood that Israel said they had launched strikes in a joint operation then with the US into Iran, and people were supposed to stay close to the shelter. Now, what we are seeing now in the past hour and a half or so now, air raid sirens alerting people that there are incoming missiles. Now, most of these missiles might be intercepted, but we've seen that in June last year that basically some of them pass through if there is a larger barrage, and that is why people are now being told to stay inside the shelters, and we have to leave it here now because we have to leave as well.
Tanya, so I take it that you can't answer another question. You need to go, just for clarification?
No. Yeah, that's
okay.
Absolutely right.
Tanya Kramer, please stay safe in Jerusalem. We'll get back to you, and please take shelter. Thank you very much. It is difficult to get verified information out of Iran at the moment, but there are many videos that are being posted on social media showing columns of smoke over what users say is Tehran. Take a look, including this one. And we have another video from the street level coming up, I believe, soon. Again, reportedly from the Capitol. We'll keep scrolling through the video showing a military jet overhead here. Again, we can't verify this footage, but it has been posted on the platform X by a source that DW News considers fairly reliable. So trying to get as much information as we can at a time when there is also news that there is limited internet in Iran right now. Not clear whether that's something done by the Americans and Israelis or something done by the regime itself. So we will move from that, and we have DW's Iran expert Teresa Tropper joining us in the studio. Teresa, President Donald Trump made some very bold claims just now. What is the latest that you're hearing?
Well, for Iranians, all of this, of course, does not come as a surprise. I mean, basically, they've been expecting a US strike or Israeli strike for weeks now, increasingly so in the past couple of days. And basically, ever since they took to the streets back in December and the beginning of January to protest against the regime itself, and then Donald Trump promised to send help in case of a major crackdown, and that crackdown happened. So basically, they've been waiting for that ever since. And still many have really mixed emotions about all of that. I can read a text message to you that a friend sent me from who lives in Tehran, and she said, "I don't know what to say or feel. In one hand, it's a relief. The anxiety of waiting and not knowing what's going to happen was frustrating. On the other hand, I'm worried and scared and sad." So a whole mix of emotions there. And I think it's fair to say that most Iranians will somehow feel like that because they've been afraid of this war to happen.
So that's the feeling. Do you have any sense, I know it might be very hard to get that sense of how many Iranians have been able to see that 8-minute speech from U.S. President Donald Trump where, it's very dramatic. I just wrote this down. He said, this government is, quote, yours to take, quote, the hour of your freedom has arrived. And this is it's the only opportunity, he says, for generations. And he beseeches them to seize control of your destiny. Very dramatic language there from U.S. President Donald Trump. Any sense of how somebody in Tehran, elsewhere in the country, in Iran, might feel and respond to that? And do we know if they've gotten the message?
I'm pretty sure they got the message. I mean, Iran's internet is heavily censored, if it works at all. And we've seen some reports that the connectivity dropped. NetBlocks was reporting internet access has dropped to 54%. So that's the early signs of the regime cutting the internet, of course. But I don't think that came in time because Trump's speech came fairly quickly. And Iranians have ways to work their way around censorship and fine connection. And there's even like an app that was hacked, apparently, a Muslim prayer times app that has been hacked, and that sent out the message, help has arrived, like right after the strikes happened.
So very creative ways of getting access to information.
I think that actually was done from the outside. So they made sure their message is heard.
Lots of uncertainty in terms of how messages are getting through to the Iranians. I want to actually turn to a video report just to provide viewers with context, including what has been happening over the past few weeks to get us to this point.
The U.S. has a range of military capabilities in the region, but they take time to deploy. The USS Abraham Lincoln Aircraft Carrier Group has moved from the South China Sea to the Arabian Sea, a journey of at least a week. There are F-15E fighters already in the region, as well as the possibility of missile strikes. But the U.S. has decreased its military presence since last year's 12-day war in June that pitted the U.S. and Israel against Iran, when there was another full carrier group in the region. Likely targets for a U.S. attack would be bases and headquarters of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards. Iran's ballistic missile program and Air Force would also be on the target list. And quite possibly the leadership itself. Iran's nuclear program would also be a possible target, but analysts say that after U.S. and Israeli airstrikes last year, the regime has likely moved its facilities around to make them harder to hit. Trump has promised no U.S. boots on the ground. Iran says it will hit back hard in response to any strike, whether there are boots on the ground or not. There are well over a dozen U.S. bases near Iran, many within easy striking distance. Iran also says it would hit Israel. With significant possible downsides to an attack, it remains to be seen if protesters in Iran can rely on the U.S. to help them.
Well, Teresa, with many Iranians, very scared, do you think that even anti-regime Iranians might rally around the flag? Is there a possibility of that?
I don't really see that happening. I mean, the rift between the Islamic Republic and the vast majority of its people is just too big at the moment. There was not even a rally around the flag last year after or during Iran's so-called 12 days war. And ever since, the Islamic Republic has become even more unpopular. I mean, people protesting out on the streets are no longer demanding some sort of change. They're demanding regime change. They want an end of the Islamic Republic. They say death to the dictator, death to Khamenei. They're raising the lion and sun flag that was used in Iran before the revolution. And they're increasingly even calling for Reza Pahlavi, Iran's exiled crown prince, who's become some sort of an opposition leader. So, no, I really don't see a rally around the flag effect in the cards.
Well, speaking of the opposition, we also have another video report just providing some more context in terms of those people who do. Hold on one second. The control room is in a panic speaking to me. Do we have the opposition video report? We do not. We do not have the piece yet. So hopefully we will catch that piece in the next hour. But let us talk a little bit about this because I think it's very interesting. Trump, in his speech, even spoke directly to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard saying, quote, lay down your weapons and promising, quote, total immunity. Otherwise, he said, quote, you would get certain death. What are the chances of the diehards of this regime caving and putting down their arms? Do you think that message will get through in Iran?
Yeah, well, that's the million-dollar question, basically, because there are thousands and thousands of people in arms for this regime one way or another, be it the traditional army or the Revolutionary Guards, the Basij. So that's a lot of people. And the big question is, are they willing to fight for this, fight against the US, fight against Israel? And nobody really knows. I mean, the crown prince I just mentioned, Reza Pahlavi, who is in the US at the moment, he also said that he's getting messages from people with the armed forces who are willing to defect and join his side when it comes to a certain point. The question is, has that point been reached? Like, are we at a point where they feel comfortable to kind of leave the Islamic Republic and join the other side? Or are we not there yet?
There's a lot of uncertainty. I do want to, can we talk a little bit about this crown prince? I mean, he's quite a controversial figure. He has appeared over the last few weeks speaking to any media who will talk to him. certainly among analysts, they've said that he doesn't have the full support of Iranian diaspora overseas, and certainly not within Iran, where there's a mix of people, some of them wanting the royal family to come back, others wanting a constitutional monarchy, others wanting democratic elections and a new sort of government system. Tell us a little bit about what you know about this crown prince, and what do you think, what has he said he wants? And does he actually want power, right? That's the big question.
Yeah, that's the big question here, because of course, like, not all Iranians are united when it comes to how could the future look like, but that's true like for every other country as well. Like, which country is 100% behind one person or one party? So I don't think that's super strange. But yeah, the big question is, like, what does he actually want? Because there's quite a gap in between what he says he wants and what his followers want him to do. He says he doesn't want to be king, he doesn't want to be president or whatsoever. He says he wants to free Iran so Iranians can make up their mind and have free and fair elections to actually determine what they want. Do they want a republic? Do they want to have a monarchy? Whatever. And then he says he is prepared to step aside for somebody else to take over. That's what he says. But of course, he has like many people who support him, who want the monarchy back, who want him on the throne, and who are also quite aggressive when it comes to talking to other opposition members, both inside the country and in the diaspora. So that's the big question, like, what does he actually want?
Teresa, I want to take a step back. As Iran analyst, you have been watching this for weeks, for months. Last year, during the 12-day war, how do you feel right now? There's a great uncertainty in terms of what happens next. I imagine it must be very overwhelming for anyone who has covered Iran for years and possibly even decades.
It is, but even more so for all Iranians, also the ones outside the country. Like, I'm following the news constantly, especially at night when you feel like an attack could happen. But that's even more so true for all the Iranians who have family inside the country, because I have friends, of course, I have sources, but others have their whole families there and they can't get in touch with them, and they're, of course, worried right now. So that's very hard. And those people can't go back. And at the moment, I can't go back either, because it's not safe to report from Iran for me at the moment. And it would also probably not be possible to tell the truth from inside the Islamic Republic at the moment. So that's, like, for Iranians, very mixed emotions for me personally as well.
And whatever happens, and many people over the coming days will dispute what U.S. President Donald Trump says, but he did say that this is the only opportunity, he says, for many generations and for people to capture it now. What is your sense of the accuracy of that, given this moment?
Yeah, I think there's actually some truth to that, because we saw, like, with the protests we just had in Iran, they were huge. They were all over the country. They were fairly united, so that looked like they were able to achieve their goals and actually, like, achieve regime change from within. But the Islamic Republic just hit back so hard, and it just showed it's able and also willing to kill thousands and thousands of its citizens to just stay in power. So I think Iranians are well aware that they depend on some sort of outside help, no matter how that looks, to actually achieve their goals and get rid of the Islamic Republic. So I think in that case, he's right.
It's a very complicated thing because, of course, from the American perspective, a lot of citizens in the United States have been very wary of, is this 2026's version of the weapons of mass destruction? American history, in terms of its intervention in Iraq, ended up costing the United States so much in foreign policy and so many years of as they say, money and lives. And the big question in the United States is whether that's something that's going to happen. I've certainly heard the argument from frustrated Iranians in the diaspora that they've done everything they can. We don't know how many lives were killed, how many people died and were killed in the protests in January. Some say a few thousand, some say upwards of 10 to 20,000. So these are really, really quite amazing times for us. We will be following this story very closely for you. Just a quick recap. U.S. President Donald Trump appeared in an 8-minute speech saying that he has been frustrated that the Iranians have been doing this for 47 years of state-sponsored terrorism, and that he is making this decision for the future, that this is, quote, a noble mission. So there you go. We'll have more. I'm Melissa Chan. Thank you very much.